Hi there, my name is Ethan Mills, and this is my final project for Poetic books. And I just thought I'd start out on a really good note and just meaningless, everything is meaningless. I thought that'd be a good way to start it, but I want to take just a few minutes to teach a little bit about Ecclesiastes, where that line comes from. When we talk about Ecclesiastes, let's be honest, it's depressing. Meaningless, everything is meaningless. Or in the Hebrew, hevel, everything is hevel. Hevel itself means mist, vapor, can be used in allegory to mean vanity. We use the term meaningless, just this kind of escape beyond our fingers and not quite sure what to do about it. But when we look at Ecclesiastes, it can put us off, if we're being honest. It's one of those books that, if we're being honest, you want to skip over when it comes to your devotions or to your yearly read of the Bible. It's one of those things that kind of puts us off because of the depressing manner. But I wanted to just take a few minutes and look at the book overall. Because when we look at the book overall, we realize that even though it starts out with meaningless, everything is meaningless, there is purpose in this book and why it's written that way. And so we'll just jump over a few chapters and kind of look at the overarch before we really get into the meat of it. The first couple of chapters 1 and 2, talk about how life without God is meaningless. There's nothing to be found there. There is no meaning. It talks about the emptiness of the secular life. It's searching for the meaning of life, that question that seems to always evade all of us. And the author talks about his unhappy discovery of his search, how there is no meaning without God. And while that is, yes, a depressing start, it's talking about the very basis of life without God, that there is no meaning with it. The author then goes a little farther to talk about that life without God is unfair. For the next few chapters, talking about the indiscretion of time and the balance of life, good and bad, good and evil, and all these things. And there just seems to be this unfairness that resides in the world apart from God. And that if he's not a part of it, that things are unfair. And I think that's pretty easy to look at in our life. Why do bad things happen to good people, good to bad, vice versa? Why isn't my life perfect when I follow Christ? And when we look at that in our own lives, we can really relate to this, that life without God is unfair. It goes a little bit farther in chapters 4 and into chapters 8 and 9, and talks about how life without God is unfulfilling, that there's this lack of purpose. Not that it's just meaningless or unfair, but even in trying to create purpose for ourselves, it's just unfilling. Missing out on a good life. The fact that we need discernment for purpose in our life, but if there's no purpose, then what's the need of discernment? Coping, I love talking about, it's the world of futility, that no matter what we do and apply ourselves, if it's apart from God, there is no fulfillment. And now, while those three sections are, yes, depressing and a little frustrating, that life without God is meaningless, that life without God is unfair, that it's unfulfilling, he ends with this advice that only life with God makes sense. That only life with God is the genuine avenue that makes sense. That looking at that wisdom is best, and wisdom comes from a life with God. And therefore, if wisdom is best, we should live wisely. Kind of that two-pronged attack. It's like if you have this wisdom here, then it's best to follow that. And that's found in God. It's still a weighty book. It can still be a little depressing at times, but the whole purpose of this book is not to depress you and feel like God is your only option, but to really give you this view that God should be the only option. If you want fulfillment, look to God. If you want fairness, look to God. If you want meaning, look to God. However, this book is not saying that if you align yourself with God, that everything is going to be perfect, fair, fulfilling, and meaningful. Even as Christians and even as leaders, we find ourselves in times of sorrow and anger and strife, persecution, and things that just don't seem to line up. And he's not saying that if you follow God, that everything will therefore be perfect and nothing will be meaningless as he begins out. Nothing will be hevel. But instead, he is teaching us that apart from God, all of that is that. But if we follow God and we follow in wisdom, that's the only thing that makes sense. That God is the only thing that helps us make sense of all of these things. Scripture says that all good things come from the Lord. And if we want to be wise and follow and find meaning and fulfillment and fairness and life abundantly, we should follow him. Otherwise, it is all meaningless. Not perfect, not planned out in every way, but there is sense and purpose, fulfillment, if we follow the life that God has in store for us. Thank you.